Hey everyone, happy Thursday, March 26th. It's about 12 o'clock on the West Coast, and it's time for another market update. Well, unfortunately, we are still in the middle of a war with Iran, and that is having a huge effect on the markets. Um, as you can expect, anything that affects oil is going to affect inflation, is going to affect how the markets view things going on. This week, there was a lot of news kind of whipsawing the markets where it looked like maybe there was a peace plan in place and the markets bounced back up. Then it looked like there would not be a peace plan, and they came back down. And I know today there was some social media post from our president that made it sound like maybe things aren't going as good as well or as good as we would hope with negotiations. And it could escalate even further. I know that troops are on their way there, so American troops being on the ground could cause escalation. And then a lot of the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia and places like that, have started changing their tone about acting in their own defense, which to me would be they're thinking about launching their own attacks and fighting back against Iran on their attacks on their energy infrastructure. So all that's not good. Like we talked about before, the markets like stability. They like to know, people putting money in the markets kind of like to know what's going to happen. It's not for gambling. It's not to try to run your money up really quick. It's about making the money off your own money and building it up. So this kind of volatility, wars, especially anything that's going to affect the energy supply, the oil supply in the world, has a huge effect on global markets and is obviously having a negative effect on mortgage rates. So, besides the humanitarian and moral reasons why we do not want wars going on and people getting killed, it's also having a horrible effect on the markets and on, like I said, mortgage rates. So let's hope that it gets resolved somehow quickly, as soon as possible. Next thing, so not a lot of data at all basically this week. And again, if there was data, I don't think the markets would care because they are so stuck on and paying attention to, rightfully so, with the war. So the only thing we did get this week that was interesting on as far as employment goes is ADP with their weekly report showed that it's about a 10K average with the 4 weeks ending March 7th. So that's about a 40,000 for the month, which again is a pretty weak employment report. Again, but the problem is that even if jobs are weakening now, the markets are very worried, and rightfully so again, about where inflation is going to go with energy prices going up in this ongoing war. So, again, not necessarily good to see employment going down, but that would be helpful if we can get this war thing settled. So where does that leave us? This is the main thing I wanted to look at today. The average 30-year conventional now today is up to 6.62%. Last week it was at 6.43%. About a month ago it was down to 5.99. That's very frustrating. We'll take a look here. And as you can see, this is over the last year, going back to last March 26th. And you can see all that nice positive gains. With rates coming down. Looks like from May or so at their height, came down all the way, a couple different times, challenged that 6% number, and then finally broke underneath it, like I said, about a month ago. And ever since then, it's basically been a pretty quick spike upwards. And now we find ourselves back up to 6.62. So not the highest of the year, unfortunately, because they were higher than that. But really, or I'm sorry, going over the last year to date, not 2026. Definitely the highest in 2026. So, again, very frustrating, especially heading into the spring selling season where, people want to list their homes, people want to buy homes, and this is not helpful. So, again, let's hope that they make some progress on the war and this kind of reverses like it can very quickly, like we've seen before. But again, just very frustrating because we had come down below 6, which is such a big mental number for people to jump back in the markets to get that 5 on their mortgage rate at the very least, and jump back up into the mid sixes. And higher now, actually 6.62. That's going to be discouraging to buyers. It's going to be discouraging to sellers that were looking to list their home and wanted to buy a new home and would have to, get a new mortgage. So again, not good at all for the markets. And let's hope that they can get that war figured out. So what do we got upcoming next Friday? We get the BLS jobs report, which again is very important in normal times. But again, if the war is going on, it might not get the attention it normally deserves. Then we got inflation, PCE, and CPI back-to-back days, April 9th and April 10th. And then the Fed makes their decision on April 29th. One thing this week the markets did not like as well is that the Bank of England and the ECB, the European Central Bank, they both news out of there is they're likely, or there's a high chance that they're going to raise their rates at the end of April. And since we're in a global economy, that kind of thing affects us and affects our, treasury yields and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's hope our Fed does not do the same thing at the end of April. But again, these other banks across the world are looking very strongly at doing so. So if anybody needs anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, like I said, let's just keep our fingers crossed and prayers out there that this war comes to an end and things kind of settle down and we can see rates start to come back down to 6 where they need to be, or under 6, hopefully. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week.